Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Breakaway podcast. You know who I am. I'm your host, Jon Root. We have an unbelievable interview for you today. You've heard so much about athletes talking about social justice, being activists, and it's really big in the sports circle right now. But there is one person that stands above the rest, somebody that's been talking about the atrocities overseas and really speaking the truth and unapologetically. No one has done it like Enes Kanter Freedom. Enes, welcome to the Breakaway podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate that.
So where are you right now? Are you in the Bay Area right now getting ready for the Warriors?
No, actually, the Golden State game is at home. I'm in Boston. We got to play against them.
I love it. How are you feeling about that? Because as we speak right now, it's just right after Steph Curry just broke the three-point record. Amazing, right?
You know what? I'm glad he broke the record before us, because I was talking to actually some of my teammates, and I'm like, listen, that picture was going to be in his room. That picture was going to be everywhere in the world. So I'm like, we all glad that he did not make the shot on us, you know? So like, we were all happy that he broke the record before our game. So,
well, I think it was poetic in happening at Madison Square Garden in New York. It almost felt like a Warriors home game, seeing that. Everybody went nuts, and I think it's a great story.
Exactly, man.
All right, so let's dive in here, because obviously you are one of those athletes that we've talked about so much here at Turning Point USA, and you've been someone that's been on both sides of the aisle when it comes to making appearances on the news. You've been on CNN, you've been on Fox News, but something that people really need to know about you, and I don't think it's talked about enough, is you really showed true courage. So you're from Turkey, and you're someone that is spoken up about what's going on overseas in Turkey. You've been an activist for the majority of your career, and I think real courage is standing up for something and speaking out about things and willing to lose something. I mean, you got your passport revoked. You were basically alienated from Turkey, and then now you're speaking out against the CCP, and you're taking hits online. We're talking about Boston Celtics games that weren't going to be broadcast overseas. Exactly. So you are showing true courage. And what does courage really mean to you? And what empowered you to really speak out about the CCP, especially lately?
I remember when I was 9 years old, little kid, my mom told me that, it doesn't always, you always have to stand up for what's right, even if it means sacrificing everything, And I believe, this platform is given me by God, and I'm just trying to do God's work out there. And, I remember I talk about Turkey the last 10 years. I did not get one phone call, right? I talk about CCP one day. My phone was blown up. Once every 2 hours, I was getting phone calls. I remember this summer I was doing a basketball camp, and I was taking pictures with the kids, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the parents called me out in front of everybody. And he's like, while I was taking a picture with his kid, he's like, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are in concentration camps, are getting tortured and gang raped every day? Yep. And I turned around, I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe you said it. Like, he said it in front of like all the kids. And I turned around, I was like, I promise you, I'm going to get back to you. Mm-hmm. I canceled everything that day. I went to my hotel room, and I started studying. I started studying what, Uyghurs were going through, what, Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese people going through, what, all the human rights violations are done by CCP. And I was like, I was very ashamed. I was like, you know what? Last 10 years, I was blindly, just focusing on only one country, one dictatorship. From now on, I'm going to do everything I can to put everything, all the human rights violations out there, done by not just CCP, but other countries too. And obviously, we need to talk about, obviously, China, just because there's a lot of business involved, lots of, endorsement deals and this and that involved. Obviously, some people's not going to like it, but I was like, you know what? This is bigger than basketball. So I am going to do that.
And I think that's something that people need to know about your story and then your stance here. This is bigger than basketball, and that you're willing to lose something. You're willing to stand up for people that can't stand up for themselves. And the fact that you're receiving backlash, I think just goes to show how in bed so many people, organizations, companies, and real governments are with the CCP. And luckily we have someone like you where we know the NBA. We know the NBA has been really trying to get into the Chinese market. There is a lot of money there. And so an NBA player like you coming out and speaking unapologetically about this, and I know it's got to mean a lot for the Muslim community too.
You know, I remember 2 years ago, obviously, when Daryl Morey tweeted something about it, the rest of the league was, silent. And then recently I heard the comments on, John Cena. I'm sure like you heard about him.
He spoke in Mandarin. Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was just very shocked and ashamed. I was like, dude, like you are John Cena, right? You're one of the biggest well-known wrestler, actor, athlete, whatever you call yourself. I was just very shameful. And I was like, someone has to do this. You see lots of athletes, actors, rappers, singers, or people who has, platform are scared to say a word. But I was like, you know what? This is the right thing to do. And the thing is, I'm not doing I'm talking about human rights. And no one's going to come and tell me that don't talk about human rights, because especially NBA is the one encouraging all the players to go out there and speak out about all the injustices that are happening, not just in America, but all over the world, So I'm like, I'm going to do it.
Well, then this comes back to the NBA bubble, because I know there was that huge social justice push there where it's like, hey, social justice slogans on the back of the jersey. And then when you want to put free Hong Kong on the back of that jersey, they're saying no.
So what's so crazy is, I actually wanted to put something else in my jersey. I was going to see, obviously, freedom was my first choice, but obviously if it wasn't for freedom, I was going to put, I could have put something else. But those words are picked by NBA, and we couldn't pick any other word. So if you wanted to put free Hong Kong or blah, 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 whatever, you couldn't do it. But 2 years ago, obviously NBA came out and say, okay, we are a social justice association, right? We stand up, against, racism, this and that. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. You guys are fighting against racism and stuff. But then don't remain silent when it comes to China. That's the one thing that pisses me off the most. You cannot be, just because of it's going to, whatever you talk about, it's going to affect the business, it's going to affect the, the endorsement deals, jersey shares, sales, shoe sales, whatever, or the game shows, whatever, then it's going to, they're telling us to pretty much remain silent. I'm like, yeah, right.
Well, and then too, people can't say they're naive to this at all. And I know you call that out too. It's like, you tell people to educate yourself. And that's what I love, that people hear that, hey, somebody held you accountable, said, hey, if you're an activist, why don't you go educate yourself on this? You have a massive platform, Enes, so can you stand up for the Uyghur Muslims overseas? You took the time, you researched. A lot of people just want everything in 140 characters. Just tell me how it is. I just want to be naive to this. I'm just stuck in my American ways, and I'm just going to try to bash things and make things racist or whatever buzzword they're going to use, and try to plague America as being one of the worst places in the world. America is the freest, most prosperous place in the history of the entire world. But I want to go back to you talking about educating people. That's what I think you're doing. You're a teacher. You're a basketball player, and you're basically a professor here when I'm talking to you, and you're going on newscasts and you're using your platform. Hey, here's what's going on here. Here's the atrocities. This is genocide. That word needs to be used. I'm glad the Biden administration used that. But when you have someone like LeBron James that says, I don't think Daryl Morey's educated on the subject, and then when he gets real questions, he has no legit answers.
Like you said, it is all about, having a better future. To me, it was so important to educate our young kids. So when they're becoming our age, they won't face the same problems that we are facing right now. They will be educated, and whoever they want to stand up against, so they won't be scared or be afraid of, oh my God, if I'm going to say this is going to cost me that, No, it all started, like I said again, back in, the 2 years ago when he tweeted and all the NBA and all the people were remaining silent. And I just like couldn't believe it. And I'm like, I'm glad the media didn't ask me about what was going on, because I'm not in a LeBron's level, or whoever's level. But like, if media would have asked me, I would exactly tell them the same thing. I was like, listen, human rights violations are happening not just in Turkey but all over the world, and we need to be speaking about all these dictatorships out there. And I was just shocked, like how the league got remaining silent and couldn't say a word, and because of all this money and business. And don't get me wrong, obviously money and business involved, but like in the other side, people are losing their lives, losing their loved ones, losing their lives and homes and stuff. So like, I was very pissed. I was like, you know what, this year is the year that I'm just gonna go out there and whatever it costs me, whatever it costs whoever, I'm just gonna talk about everything I can to just bring awareness of what's going on. Because I mean, people shouldn't care about business when there is almost 2 million people are in genocide right now, and they're just, they're losing everything. You cannot tell me to keep your mouth shut when there are people are like pretty much getting. Put your mom and put your dad and put your sister in that situation. Would you still remain silent? So that was like the one that really pisses me off the most.
And that's what I love when you were saying, oh, I guess you're just going to shut up and dribble for the Communist Party of China. And if you're just going to shut up and dribble, and then you're going to try to tell us that all these things in America are the worst of the worst, you're the hypocrite. And I think when you call out hypocrisy, people's eyes need to be open, where it's like, hey, I am here giving you the facts. This isn't some sort of agenda. And think about when I want to get your response to when LeBron James had his post-game presser, and all he did was just talk about you. He didn't actually address what your issues were. And I feel like that is a huge problem in our country. And when you call out atrocities of a communist party, saying, hey, I want you to address this, LeBron, not about, hey, me having your name in my mouth. Please just address this and let's have a conversation.
First of all, shame on the sports journalists out there. Like, are they not smart enough to like listen? It's like, okay, you're talking about Enes right now. Forget about Enes. Let's come to the real topic. Mm-hmm. Enes is calling you out because of, the stuff that you're not talking about. So if I was a sports journalist, I'm like, dude, okay, Enes is a bad guy. What? I don't care. Good guy, bad guy, whatever. Like, let's get to the real topic. So what do you think about what's going on? What do you think about missing tennis player? What do you think about, league is remaining silent about the, not just NBA, but like many other leagues besides Women's Tennis Association. All the associations are remaining silent about what's going on over there in China because of money is involved. Like, if I would, first of all, shame on all the sports journalists around him that did not ask him that question. The second thing is, obviously, I was not expecting an answer from him. It's just, he has a movie going on, Space Jam 2, which I did not watch it. I
fell asleep watching that one, Enes. I'll be honest.
I was actually in love with the first one, and I did not watch the second one. And you have a movie going on, they might show it in China, and you have all the shoe sale, blah, blah, blah. But, he's not the only one. Obviously, I'm calling out because he's the face of Nike, and there are so many other athletes out there, And whenever, I don't want people to understand me wrong, just because I'm calling out people like Michael Jordan or, LeBron, people like I see some of the comments, people think that I'm racist. I am not racist at all. When the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, I was the third one in the whole league went out there and protested with my city, peaceful protest. Anyway, that's a different topic. But like, it just, someone had to call out these mega stars, because in their whole life, no one really called them out. So I was like, listen, we need to hold these people accountable. So.
Well, I think that's what sports journalists, there's no journalistic integrity anymore. I mean, I think especially me watching the NBA bubble, and you have a lot that's going on in our world, and nobody should think that Enes Kanter freedom is racist, but I think that's something that's specific, and I will just say left-wing journalists try to just use these buzzwords and these things that try to just toy at people's emotions, and it's a total distraction from what you're actually bringing up. So why do these people have so many different distractions when it's like, okay, whatever, call me what you want to call me, but here's the truth about the CCP. Here's genocide. Here's how we know that the CCP ruined our lives for these last 2 years. The CCP
Exactly.
is killing millions of people. And just like you said, we should be pissed about this, because if we really do care about human rights, stop playing
Exactly.
these race cards, stop all this distraction. Let's get to the bottom of this. And that's you as a sports journalist. That's what you're supposed to do. Ask the follow-up questions, ask for an explanation, please.
I think, other thing we need to do, people forget sometimes, because sometimes people focus on the people so much, but like these companies using these players, uneducated players, as puppets, because you have I'll give you an example. Nike, the biggest sponsor of NBA, right? If you look at Nike in America, they stand with Black Lives Matter, Latino community, no Asian hate, LGBTQ community. But when it comes to China, they remain silent. Why? Obviously, the item sales. And keep telling these people, and I'm telling like whoever listens to this podcast right now, like when you buy those shoes, when you buy those T-shirt or whatever you buy, jerseys, there are so much, blood. There's so much sweat and oppression on those items. So think twice before you buy. And if you're an athlete, right, before you put your signature on a paper and sign this multi-million whatever deals with this endorsement, deals and with these companies, do some research. Every dollar you make, there is so much blood on those dollars. So it's not worth it.
So what are the action items you give people then? Because I know for someone like me, I played college football. We were sponsored by Nike, and I didn't really know too much about, what was going on overseas, about the production of these products. So when people are asking you, like, Enes, like, I know you're telling me, don't buy this. Because if you buy this, you're supporting modern day slavery, and this is what's actually going on. So do you push people to specific products now? And how do we actually make sure that we're not buying this stuff, but there also is other items that we can purchase that maybe promote freedoms and America, maybe stuff that's made here? What do you tell people?
Well, I mean, I feel like if you pick up an item and says made in China, put that back, because I feel like, we need to ban all the products coming to the US from Xinjiang. That is the number one thing. And the second thing, hold the shipments off the border of Xinjiang. Don't let them come in. And obviously, there are so many other. The shoes that I'm wearing, right? The shoes that I'm wearing is all the messages on it and stuff. It's all made in America, and I feel like I wanted to show. And people are asking me, where are you making those shoes? I'm like, these are China-free shoes. There's no any kind of slave labor. There's no modern day. There's not. It's just all about America, because obviously we have enough product here that we can live forever. But when you pick up an item and it says made in China, just put that back, because that means you're part of the problem. And I think the administration needs to be more tough on dictatorships like China. I mean, you need to put democratic reforms, sanctions, stop buying the slave labor items, diplomatic pressure, which is they're doing. I don't know if it's enough or not for the Olympics, but we just need to be careful and educated.
And before we get into kind of some of my favorite shoes of yours and maybe what could be coming next, I do want to talk about the Olympics, because we're definitely in the same boat, Enes. I know when you had the Biden administration come out and actually say the word genocide, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said genocide. I think that was unbelievably important. And then they said there's going to be a diplomatic boycott. But you said it's good, but it's not enough, 100%, because years from now, people aren't going to look back and be like, what delegates from the United States were at these Olympics? No, you're going to think about the athletes that were there and how we promoted a place and they had the honor of hosting the Olympics, and they don't live up to Olympic values. The IOC just gave it to them. So if this is good but not good enough, how do we get the athletes to start boycotting and make a total boycott of the Olympics?
First of all, IOC, International Olympic Committee, I say this often, but they sleep in the same bed with China. They are 100% correct. And like if I'm an athlete, or if the athletes are watching this, all the gold medals in the world that you can win is not more important than your morals, your principles, and your values. If one just stands up and say, you know what, there's a genocide happening, while we're talking, there's a genocide happening, and I am not going there. Trust me, all the other athletes are going to gain so much courage, and they might boycott it with you. So diplomatic boycotts are obviously, it still shows something. It's better than nothing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still take that.
Yep.
It's better than nothing, but it's just not enough. You're organizing an Olympic Games where there's a genocide happening. It's just a shame. I feel, but I am glad, after USA, the more countries like Australia, UK, even like small countries like Kosovo and stuff. So they're started to put diplomatic boycotts. That still shows something, but I feel like athletes needs to stand up and say, okay, this is enough, because they have a chance to maybe save millions of lives. That's going to put so much pressure on the CCP, and we have to hold these dictatorships accountable. So.
And then you, as a U.S. citizen, I'm sure you're going to be rooting for the U.S. if our athletes go out there, and we're going to go out there and we're going to kick some booty, no doubt. That's what the USA does, especially in sports. But when we look at this and we think, all right, does it start with just one Olympic athlete, and then that's a spark that could light the fire? I know for me, my personal theory is if we had maybe just a couple NHL players that said, I'm not going to go out there and because of the genocide, because of the human rights violations and atrocities, because a lot of NHL players are talking about, well, it's just during our NHL season and that's just a lot, the COVID protocols. If they stopped just using those excuses and maybe parlayed with the I'm not going out there, not just because of these couple of things, it's because of the human rights issues. Do you think maybe that could be a way to a spark that lights a fire that gets us to totally get out?
I hope so. I mean, I am trying to, trust me, I'm trying to reach out to, like, you have no idea how many athletes out there that, try to put pressure on them. But it's just really sad that how all these athletes out there are scared to say a word, like I understand for like young athletes, just came in the league, make his first check, so excited. Okay, I'll give you a pass. Still not, but I'll give you a pass. But all these athletes are, millions of signed this multi-million dollars for how many years? Just say something. Trust me. This is more important. Put your family in that situation. Would you still remain silent? So I've been trying to reach out to many Olympic athletes, but unfortunately, they're all scared and they don't want to say a word. So.
Do you have any sort of optimism with the Olympic athletes you talk to? Is there anything that anybody said to you? Please, you don't have to name names at all, but is there anything someone said to you where you're like, maybe this could be an athlete that decides to pull out because they've been educated?
I don't know how much the basketball, but just recently, two of the legends, Karim Abdul-Jabbar and Dominic Lucas, joined me to call out CCP and stand up for the Uyghur people. But I'm trying to talk to all these athletes, but unfortunately, they're just saying, well, I have a deal with Nike. I have I need to go there. They're just trying to come up with some kind of excuses. But then I'm like, you know what? You're good. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love how you can understand that too, because there's people that are still trying to put food on the table. And just like with you, you've made a massive stand. You've held the line. You're not allowed to go back to your home country. And a lot of people don't understand. People don't understand that.
I got 10 arrests warrants for me less than 4 years. It's all calling out the dictatorship in Turkey. But I'm just gonna say one thing, man. These conversations are happening, and you see there are so many countries out there. I can tell you a ton of them. China, Russia, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, Belarus, Venezuela, Iran, Syria. So there's so many countries out there who are pretty much Afghanistan. The countries are pretty much, it's just a pure dictatorship. So all I'm saying is just we need to be blessed and feel lucky to be in this situation in America.
Mm-hmm. And then finish with a couple of things here, because I know you got to go. So talking about your love for America, and I want you to give a little Spark Notes version of that day that you became a U.S. citizen. But I know it's something that you've talked about quite a bit, is coming from Turkey, and then all the places you just mentioned, they don't have freedom of speech. They don't have freedom of religion. They don't have a democracy. And it seems like, especially when you were talking to Tucker Carlson, it seems like people, when they come from overseas and they come here and they realize that there's an American privilege, that people are so blind to how blessed and privileged they are to be an American. Why is that? And then tell us about that day you became a citizen.
I think I told you this before, but I told this to the media before, but I'm gonna say this again. It's a funny story. I remember first time coming to America back in 2009. Right, one of my teammates criticized the president, and I turned around. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, he's like, what happened? I was like, they're gonna put you in jail. And he started to laugh and was like, listen, man, this is not Turkey, this is America, you know? And I'm like, what do you mean? So he tried to explain to me what freedom of speech means, you know, what democracy is, what rule of law is, what checks and balances are, or whatever. And I just didn't understand it. I couldn't understand it, because I was like very random. I was like, what do you mean? So I was like, your family's not going to be put in jail and tortured just because of you calling out the government? Is like, no. So I did some little research. I was very shocked. The reason, I wanted to make that word part of me is because obviously that's the greatest thing that a human being can have: freedom of speech, religion, expression, freedom of press, democracy. And, from day one, America gave me a warm welcome, open her arm. And I was just very shocked, that how much freedom that, you love the government, you hate the government, you love the president, you hate the president, but you have a voice to criticize, and you have a voice to, use your speech and educate people. And I'm, like I said, man, people should feel very lucky to be in this situation, because, it's when you go to countries, like I've been to, it's just not even comparable. So.
And honestly, behalf of all Americans, I appreciate so much that you are opening up dialogue to actually get people to realize, have a 30,000-foot view. Imagine what's been going on at places overseas where people can't even talk about other politicians. And you were talking about Peng Shuai, the tennis player. She speaks out about sexual assault, and she's gone. The IOC, the CCP media, and other governments, they can't tell you that these people are safe. Here, you can bash the president. You can bash people in government, and you're fine. And it's mind blowing, because people are disappearing overseas. They're getting killed for speaking out against the atrocities of government. And then here, you can speak out against this, and then you can just go get your $25 Starbucks and pay $1 million for gas. So congratulations, you can keep living your life. People don't understand how much of a privilege it is to be an American. I got 3 last questions for you, and then I'm going to let you go. All right. Tell me this. What's a better name in the NBA? Enes Kanter Freedom or Meta World Peace?
Oh, they both obviously have amazing names. Meta World Peace. And there's another guy was actually Will Be for Free. So there's like this 2 names that was like very, when they changed the name, obviously became a huge news all over the world. I will still take the freedom over everything, because the freedom is like the greatest thing that human being can have. So I'm taking the freedom. Sorry, Meta.
Amen to that. And I think a lot of people don't know about World Be Free. He played for the San Diego Clippers, also played for the Warriors. And he was actually the second leading scorer the 89 season and the 80 season, right behind George Gervin. So a little fun fact for people. And 2 more things for you, Enes. I love Ginny the Pooh on your shoes, and that has been, there's obviously you're calling out a lot of atrocities. You've had some great shoes, but the Ginny the Pooh has been my favorite little piece of your shoes. Can you give us a little sneak peek of what we can be expecting next? What next pair of shoes you got?
First of all, they like to play dirty games. I was like, you know what? All right, taste your own medicine. But I think there are so many other problems that are, happening. You look at, World Health Organization, UN, and many other, people, whatever, part of the problem, and many other companies are part of the problem. I feel like we need to start calling out these companies and these organizations who are, making this case even worse than it is, and they're part of the genocide, I will say. So I will call out them one by one. And I could care less about the backlash or whatever it is, because this is human rights. And I often tell people, I was like, listen, man, I don't do politics. I do human rights. There's a big difference between, So like whenever I put this message on my shoes, people are telling me, oh, stay away from politics. But I'm like, this is not politics. This is human rights. I'm putting free Tibet on my shoes, free Hong Kong, free Uyghurs on my shoes. Those people are getting killed. Those people are in genocide right now. So there's a difference between politics and human rights. So I just wanted to make this clear. But there are so many organizations, associations to be called, and we are going to get them one by one.
It's endless, and I'm sure you're using a lot of paint for those shoes, and it's
yeah.
Money well spent. Final question I have for you is, a lot of people have been talking about the greatest sports activists of all time. A lot of people talk about Muhammad Ali, and there's been a lot of other people that have made a huge impact in the American society and really across the globe. So where do you think you rank all time, and how much of an honor is it to be in a conversation with Muhammad Ali?
I mean, I don't, obviously, growing up, obviously, Muhammad Ali was I could just say with my pretty much like favorite athlete of all time, what he did on and off the ring, I mean, to be named even like close to his name or just like, it's an honor, it's definitely an honor. I don't want to know where am I going to rank. And you know what? I feel like I could care less about the rank. All I care about is getting the message out there. People keep telling me about, I want to make this very clear because like people keep telling me about, oh, why are you joining his show? Why are you joining her show? Why are you going to this channel? Why are you going to that channel, right? I want every part of the country to hear my story. I want every person in America. Doesn't matter, you're right wing, you're left wing, you're this and that. I don't care. Like I said again, I don't do politics. I do human rights. I want every person, every part of the country that knows what's going on, and they need to know who's getting exposed and who are getting called out. So that's why I'm like, I don't care what people say. I don't care about all the backlash and everything. I'm going to focus on getting my message out there. And the message is not about me. The message is about the innocent people out there. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm trying to be the voice of all those innocent people out there who don't have a voice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like all these people out there are criticizing me, oh, this show or that show. Listen, every part of the country needs to hear what's going on. And I will continue to join these shows or these podcasts to be the voice.
Yeah, and I appreciate you setting up dialogue like this, having civil discourse, because there's a lot of people that don't want us to talk about this stuff. That's just like, no, live in fear of the CCP, live in fear of what people will think of you, live in fear of maybe losing friends or family or whatever relationships you might have. And people like you, you don't live in fear, you live in freedom. And you're someone that is making sure that they know the truth. You're someone that is making sure that, hey, let's sit down and talk about this. We don't have to agree about everything. We don't have to have some sort of prerequisites before we have this talk. I don't need to know who you voted for. I don't need to know where you came from, but let's actually talk about the truth here and have some dialogue. And that's what I appreciate so much with you, because it's not about Enes Kanter freedom. This is about human rights. And there's a lot of sports activists out there that is all about them. You've called out Colin Kaepernick quite a bit. Colin Kaepernick, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, is he's made a killing and millions of dollars off dividing us. And it's become really about Colin Kaepernick. And there might be bits and pieces that people agree with him, but let's at least sit down and talk about how this is more, when we talk about human rights, it's more than just about an individual. This is about people that can't speak up for themselves. And I thank God that we have people like you, courageous people like you, that are willing to lose something and standing up for freedom, and stand up for freedom so much, you want it to be your last name. So I love that about you, Enes. I want you to continue to hold the line. And I love that you're having conversations on both sides of the aisle, because I really don't see that happening anywhere else in this country or really anywhere else in the world. And we've needed someone like you that can bridge that gap. And we really appreciate the time here. Last thing I'll tell you, Enes, please don't beat up on my Golden State Warriors too bad. Can you promise me that?
Listen, man, they're a tough team to beat. They're the best team in West right now. But we got some, trust me, we got some good plans on Cherry. So it's going to be a very fun game tomorrow. We're going to be a very physical talk. We have to be. So, but it's going to be a very interesting game tomorrow.
Enes, thanks again so much for the time. Keep holding the line. You got our support. and please keep it up. And I can't wait to see the new shoes. Have a great day.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.